Stative verbs and adjectives. In this module, I simply want to show that there is a connection between stative verbs, especially stative verbs in the perfect, and adjectives. I mentioned that in English, we generally express a stative with an adjective. He is old, where old is the adjective. But in Hebrew, you can use either a verb or an adjective. So, as an example, did I write this before? Yes, okay. Kaved hara'av. Ra'av is famine, and kaved means heavy or important. So here this would be, the famine was heavy, let's say, or is heavy. Now, actually, this is ambiguous as to the form, not really as to the meaning. The famine was heavy. Let's take a look at why I say this is ambiguous as to the form, as to what form this is here. Get a clean screen here. If we look at our dynamic verbs, first of all, pakad, let's write that down. So pakad is what? This is our perfect, right? 3ms perfect, pakad. He visited. And so kaved would be the corresponding perfect form for the stative. Kaved. So, perfect 3ms, perfect 3ms. Now, what does the, I need a put here. What does the participle look like? If you remember, the 3ms participle is pokad. Right? You can go back, take a look at the participle section, module, if you forget. Let's give a little space here. And now the question is, what does the participle, the masculine singular participle of the stative verb look like? If this is the one for the dynamic, what does the stative one look like? Well, in fact, it looks just like this. There's no difference. It looks just like the perfect. The masculine singular looks just like the 3ms perfect. With the other forms, it looks different because you have endings. That'll tell you the difference. But for the form that has no ending, they look exactly the same. And that makes some sense. You already have the tsere there. So you're going to preserve the tsere, and this stays. So the two forms look the same, and in fact, there's another form. This here, kaved, can also be something else. It can also be the adjective. So the one verb here, or the one word, kaved, can either be the 3ms perfect, or the masculine singular participle, or the masculine singular adjective. Maybe I should write that here. So 3ms perfect. Okay. Masculine singular participle, or the masculine singular adjective. Get a proper A out of this here. Let's see. Adjective. Now it's in these forms in particular where they're all the same. If you went to feminine, you would have an ending here or here, and if you went to any of the other persons or gender numbers, then you would have an ending here. But for these where they have no endings, they all look the same in the stative. So if you go back to the example I had here, kaved hara'av, what is this? Is this a perfect? The famine, this being the subject, was heavy. Okay, could be 3ms perfect. Could be a participle. The famine was heavy, where this participle would take its tense from whatever verb came before it. Maybe the famine will be heavy, perhaps, or the famine is heavy. Generally would have more of a continuous sense to it, because participles do that. But you would only know from context. Or it could be a predicate adjective, an adjective functioning in the predicate position. Remember, we have three types of adjectives. If it's over here, the adjective, it tends to be attributive. It's modifying this. The heavy famine. If it's a substantive, it's functioning as a noun, which really wouldn't work here. And the third option was the predicate use of the adjective. Heavy, literally, heavy is the famine, or heavy was the famine, where the verb to be is implied. So there's some ambiguity here in terms of form, but it's not really much of a problem for translation. Now sometimes you can tell from the word around it whether this form here is sometimes you can eliminate some of the options. So let's look at this one here. Ani male. Male means to be full or filled. I am full. Okay, ani is clearly I. So could this be the 3ms perfect? Well, it couldn't be, because this is third person, this is first person. They don't match. You would have to, if you wanted this to be perfect with I, you'd have to say ani maleti. You have to put the T ending here to get subject-verb agreement on the person. If you wanted to keep it this way, then keep this as male, as a perfect verb, then your pronoun would have to be who, because male is the 3ms perfect verb. So hu male would work. But with ani, we know it can't be perfect. It could be participle if the speaker was masculine. I am full. It could also be a predicate adjective, unlikely though, because predicate adjectives tend to precede the subject. So context here, or syntactical context, the words that are around it, agreement with other words, eliminates some of the options here and eliminates some of the ambiguity. But again, there's not a lot of difference in translation, so it's not really a big deal in terms of understanding. Zakein Hanavi. The prophet here, was old or is old. Now this would work with any of them. This could be the perfect. The prophet was old. If this was the participle, you'd probably still say the prophet was old. And if it was the past, or the adjective, old was the prophet. Well, the prophet was old. So that's just to show you again that the translation value is not that different. Just be aware that there is a connection between adjectives and stative verbs. It's a connection in meaning, and we see it in English, and there's a connection in form here, especially for these that have no endings. And there's also a connection here, a similarity with the participle.